Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily, the first English news program in Poland. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. Today, the 81st anniversary of the NKVD's Polish operation was held in Warsaw in commemoration of one of the least known genocides in recent history. Between 1937 to 1938, over 110,000 Poles living in the Soviet Union were murdered by the Soviet secret police, the NKVD, falsely accused of working as agents and spies for the Polish state.
The anniversary of the Soviet genocide on Poles was commemorated at noon by the monument to the fallen and murdered in the East. A letter from the President Andrzej Duda was read by the Secretary of State Andrzej Dera.
Czy naszą winą było dążenie do wolności?
Was striving for freedom our fault? Or maybe the decision to murder our ancestors was made because Poles wanted to be citizens instead of subjects? One thing is for sure, nothing justifies the crime of genocide, and the country which goes up against his citizens, killing them and stripping them of any laws, cannot hope for recognition and appreciation.
Sylwester Dąbrowski.
Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki's letter was read by the first Deputy Province Governor of Mazowieckie District, Sylwester Dąbrowski.
Gdy chylimy czoła.
While we are bowing down before the victims of this heinous crime, over 110,000 murdered, we are also taking on the responsibility to always seek the truth about the crimes of the Soviet system, as well as to memorialize its victims in a dignified manner. This is our duty towards the future generations. The genocide was a direct consequence of an order given by the People's Commissar for Internal Affairs of the Soviet Union, Nikolai Yezhov, on August 11, 1937. As a result of the repression from the Soviet Union in the years 1937-38, at least 111,000 Poles died and 29,000 were sent to inhumane labor camps.
After the third consecutive electoral victory with a constitutional majority, the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán moved towards facilitating a shift towards conservative values in the sphere of culture and art. The Prime Minister staked out his goals for cultural policies in a speech at the end of July. This week, the government announced that it will end gender studies programs in state-funded universities.
The conservative forces in Hungary have increasingly amped up their focus on issues regarding culture and art in recent weeks. They have targeted state-funded left-leaning art events, with the latest example concerning an exhibition in Hungarian National Gallery of the communist Mexican painter Frida Kahlo, the mistress of Leon Trotsky. An exhibition in the Kaszak Museum about the communist dictatorship in Hungary in 1919, following the revolution of Bela Kun, is also under fire. Both museums accused of falsifying history and promoting communism. Prime Minister Orbán promised at the end of July that the leftist dominance of state institutions involved with art and culture is about to come to an end. An era is determined by cultural trends, collective beliefs and social customs. This is now the task we are faced with. We must embed the political system in a cultural era. This is why it is logical and comes as no surprise that it is precisely in the field of cultural policy that we have seen the explosion of what is currently the most intense debate. Political analyst Tamas Frič argues that given the strong mandate given to the conservative government by voters, it has the right to support conservative ideas. The autonomy of individual institutions should be preserved, but I think that his government has the right to support conservative ideas, artists and works of culture, without destroying liberal culture, of course. Simply put, the government should prefer and support the conservative culture. In another step towards dismantling the liberal grip on culture, the government announced last week that it will end all programs of gender studies in state-funded universities. One of the universities affected by the new policy is the Central European University, controlled by George Soros. The Hungarian government has long been accused of anti-Semitism by liberals in Western Europe for targeting liberal NGOs operating in Hungary that are financed by George Soros. Hungary's new efforts to create conditions for conservative culture are likely to aggravate the Western liberal elite yet again.
Dożyce.pl, a Polish conservative news website, has requested the Estimator pollster for an opinion poll concerning the upcoming parliamentary elections in Poland, which will take place in 2019. According to their survey, despite the controversies surrounding the judicial reform, the ruling Law and Justice Party will still hold majority in the parliament, with the support of 41.8% of the Polish voters.
According to the opinion poll conducted by the estimator pollster, the ruling National Conservative Law and Justice Party would come out on top once again, with 41.8% of the support. Following them would be the Liberal Conservative Civic Platform. The heirs of the Polish Communist Party, the Left Democratic Alliance, would finish third with 9.3% of the votes. Both the nationalist populist Cookies 15 party and the leftist agrarian Polish People's Party would also make it into the Polish Sejm. It would seem like the ruling Law and Justice Party would still get the majority of the votes, even in light of the recent controversies surrounding the judicial reform. The Supreme Court saga will soon come to an end, as new judges for this institution will be chosen next Monday. However, opinion polls are only an estimate, and a lot can still change before the elections take place next year. For now, it looks like the Law and Justice Party is on its way to secure a second electoral victory in a row.
The German Chancellor Angela Merkel has traveled to the southern Spanish region, Andalusia, for a 2 days unofficial visit. The region is the front line of Spain's increasingly difficult struggle to handle the large influx of illegal immigrants from Africa. Angela Merkel stated during a press conference with the Spanish Prime Minister that the migrants must be distributed to all EU member states according to the mandatory quota system.
The German Chancellor met with the Spanish Prime Minister in order to secure a deal in which African migrants who first asked for asylum in Spain but later moved on to Germany could be deported back to Spain. She also stressed that Europe must cooperate to handle the migration crisis. Here in this town we are just a few kilometers from the African coast, similar to Malta or Sicily. This is a challenge we must cope with together, and no country can dodge this task. No country can avoid this task. Angela Merkel continued by underlining that all EU member states will have to take in non-European migrants in the future. Those who have a right to stay must be distributed fairly across Europe. So far we have not found a solution. The more countries which believe that a fair burden share is needed for those who can permanently stay with us because they are entitled to asylum status, that's something the European Union must achieve. However, countries such as Poland, Hungary, the Czech Republic, Austria and many other states in Central Eastern Europe argue that Europe needs to adopt an Australian immigration policy based on turning boats with migrants back to where they came from. It looks as if the tide is turning against Germany's open doors immigration policy.
That's it for today. See you next time on Poland Daily. But stay tuned for the Poland Daily Weather Report.